Why don't we go from left to right, starting with Gerri. And if each member of the panel could introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about your editorial beat, your media outlet, and then let us know how you think the biotech and biomed industries are covered in Los Angeles.
I am Gerri Shaftel. I'm the medical producer for Fox 11 News. I think you're underrepresented in our coverage, that's for sure. And there are a few reasons for that. One, we're understaffed. We've lost half of our staff in the last few months. So just as the rest of the economy has suffered, so has the news business. Most of the stories that I do are very patient-centric. I do hear from publicists like Erik all the time, and Erik is one of my favorite. But the stories that really compel me are usually a patient who calls the station and says, I have a problem, and no doctor can solve it, or you have to know this miracle that I've received. And then I'll usually follow the treatment or the doctor, backwards from the patient. So I start with the patient. If I have a compelling patient, I'll go and just follow whatever is working or not working for that patient. So generally for television stories, the question I always want to know is what are the pictures? The question that I have to answer from my employer is what is the promo? Why will people tune in to see this? And you have to understand our audience is the American Idol audience. So what's going to interest a 13-year-old boy, a 34-year-old mom, so it's just this broad, we have to give them a reason to watch. So as important as what you guys do is, if I can't figure out how to make people want to watch it, it's very difficult to do for TV.
Great, thank you, Gerri, and thanks for representing the American Idol audience on the panel. Frank?
Thank you very much, Erik. Frank Mottek from KNX 1070 News Radio, the host of the KNX Business Hour, #1 for your business and consumer news here in Southern California. Now the weather mostly clear tonight, lows will be down around 50. We're looking at 70 right now here in downtown Los Angeles. Just want to express my tremendous respect and admiration for what you do here. I first would like to hire the attorney over here, the PR person over here, and the builder at this table. Really appreciate the great introductions here tonight to this organization, and Ahmed, thank you very much, and Erik, thank you very much. I started in the business when I was in high school. I was actually the president of the Future Doctors at that time and worked in an emergency room for 3 years. I was very much into science and studied at a laboratory in Miami for Cordis. I separated blood clots and all that, and was involved in some early research in immunology for various companies. So I have a science background. I've always been very interested in science and medicine. I later went on to do all of the space shuttle launches for the CBS radio network for 6 years, and of course that was a very heavily science-oriented assignment. Then went on to the CBS station in Miami, where I worked there for many years and covered many science and medical issues. Filled in for Paul Kangas for many years on the Nightly Business Report. Came out here about 18 years ago and started at KNX then. I've been doing the business news pretty much exclusively for the last 5 or 6 years. And certainly cover what you do to some extent. And radio, of course, is different than television in that we do not depend on the pictures, so it's very easy to get a story on the air. The business hour and the whole station really is entirely news-driven. So when I come in the morning, it's pretty much a blank slate. So if I see, there's been a cure for brain cancer, obviously we want to talk to you. If there's some story connected to your industry, we want to get you on the air. So from that standpoint, I find radio the most satisfying form of broadcast journalism because we mobilize very, very quickly. And that's why we say, see it tonight, read about it tomorrow, but hear it now on the business hour. And that, I think, is the great strength of radio and the great strength of the last, all news station here in Southern California. So we're going strong and certainly would like to hear from you and certainly respect the work that you do.
Well, hello, I'm Jim Flanagan, and I was a business columnist for the Los Angeles Times for more than 20 years. I'm a contract writer for the New York Times now. I've been a business journalist for 47 years, and I have covered every industry, and including very much biotech, pharmaceutical industry. And what advice would I give to anybody about getting a story or reaching media? Well, you have a very interesting industry. This is a wow industry. Gerri talks to patients, Frank talks to business people, but everybody is interested. I've covered, in fact, the other month there, I wrote a column in the New York Times, and I ran into companies like Replenish. Replenish is a small startup coming out of USC and Caltech. It's up in Pasadena. What do they have? They're perfecting an implantable device in the eye, a microscopic implantable device that would feed drugs to combat glaucoma and macular degeneration. Some people in this room, including myself, are elderly. And people who are not elderly know all about these kinds of things. And they say, oh my God, tell me about that. What does it do? How does it do that? You know, I have an aunt who is suffering from this. Everybody's got this kind of thing. I was up in Mountain View the other week, and there's a company called NeuroPace. NeuroPace is a 13-year-old company. It has never had a cent of revenue. It is backed by $120 million of venture capital from everybody from Johnson & Johnson to Domain Associates. What does it do? It has come up with a way of alleviating epilepsy by an implantable device in the brain that broadcasts the aura of a seizure coming on. This kind of stuff is wow stuff. So, and I think the best way is not to sit there or try to say, well, gee, can you do a story on this company? But Frank has something going on, or Gerri or Deborah, you simply make yourself a source and say, hey, if you'd like to know about what's going on in some aspect of medicine or science that you need to be a little expert on in 5 minutes, hey, be a resource, and then you get your name in and you get all that kind of good stuff. That's what my only advice. That's what I have to say to start off.
Great. Thank you, Jim. Deborah?
Yes. Hi, Deborah Crowe with the Los Angeles Business Journal. And whereas one of Gerri's first questions might be, where are the pictures? My question is more likely going to be, even though the pictures are important, is, what are the numbers? We're very much interested in the business aspects of what you do and the personalities behind them. To the extent that we get into the wow factor, the science, the medicine part, which I personally find very interesting, for our audience, we're interested in the business of what you do. A lot of what I do when I'm covering healthcare, life sciences, biotech, is driven by events in your company. The quarterly reports, venture capital, the announcement that you're about to be, bought out and shipped out of state, which is too often the case here in Los Angeles County. And so I spend a lot of time fielding calls from media people who are talking about the science and the medicine aspect and don't necessarily come back to me with what's going on with the business right now. And it's that business angle that allows me to sort of delve into more of the wow aspects of all of what you do.
Mark, you work with executives in a number of different industries. How do biotech and medical device executives stack up in terms of media savvy? And what do you think is unique about training them and preparing them for the media versus other industries?
The biotech pharmaceutical industries are filled with tremendous communicators, but typically they are tremendous communicators among one another. They are very good at discussing the science, at discussing things in terms that one another understands very well. They are less good, less effective at talking to the 34-year-old mother, the 13-year-old kid, the stay-at-home mom, the grandmother, and that is the audience that comprises the traditional news media. You're talking to a mainstream audience, and so a lot of people with advanced degrees have a hard time doing that. True for clinicians as well, by the way. Those who work with patients sometimes speak way over the heads of the general audiences when they get on camera or when they talk in the mainstream press because they slip into this medical conference mode or peer-to-peer mode.